Welcome to another episode of AutoMundial, the weekly car news and review show where this week we're checking out BMW's latest 5 Series. Is it still the go-to executive saloon?
And we have Hyundai's new Santa Fe, as well as a hot hatch from Ford and Cadillac's 2021 Escalade.
Alfa Romeo has revealed a new version of its Stelvio SUV, the Veloce TI. Sitting below the Rapid Quadrifoglio, the TI, standing for Turismo Internacional, is a more affordable performance SUV, doing without the screaming V6 of its sibling, instead making do with a turbocharged 2-litre petrol motor. The numbers are good though, with 280 horsepower on tap and all-wheel drive. There is a more frugal diesel version available too, with 210 horsepower and an 8-speed automatic gearbox. All Veloce TIs get some sporty styling tweaks, including a body kit and some 21-inch alloys. This new trim level arrives with the new 2021 Stelvio and Giulia models. All cars now get level 2 autonomous capabilities and more efficient engines, but the top spec Stelvio is still the 503 brake horsepower quadrifoglio. Capable of 0 to 62 in a barely believable 3.8 seconds, it remains one of the fastest SUVs of any sort on the market, and a match for anything from Porsche or BMW.
Big and bold styling is now commonplace on premium cars. Here in Europe, Audis and BMW's have increasingly flamboyant front ends, while elsewhere brands like Lexus and Cadillac are also cashing in on the trend for eye-catching big grilles. But now this current fascination for enlarged openings at the front of cars is trickling down to more humble offerings. This is the new Hyundai Santa Fe, and it looks like no other car we've seen from the South Korean brand before. A facelift of the previous generation, this new 2020 car is certainly a head-turner. We've been pretty vocal about our opinions of other manufacturers' big grilles in the past, but this time we have to say we rather like it. After all, this is a big car, and apart from the new hydrogen Nexo, the most expensive Hyundai you can buy here in Europe. The front and rear bumpers have both been updated, and so have the head and tail lights. But while Hyundai is calling this a facelift, it consists of much more than just some new body panels. The whole platform has changed, now using the same one as the American market Sonata, giving the Santa Fe access to the same hybrid powertrains. As a result, it's slightly bigger than the previous version, meaning there's more space inside the cabin. Speaking of which, the interior has been updated too. It's been thoroughly modernised with new trim options, a new centre console and some fancy new infotainment. It gets all the usual smartphone connectivity, plus a new 12.3-inch digital display in front of the driver in place of dials. As modern and slick as it all looks though, Hyundai has kept plenty of physical buttons to make controls easy to use while driving. There are buttons for the climate control, heated seats and shortcuts for the infotainment. It may not look as slick as something from Mercedes or JLR, but we guarantee it'll be easier to use. Under the bonnet, you get only 2 options, either a 1.6-litre 4-cylinder petrol motor with a mild hybrid setup delivering 227 brake horsepower, or a Meteor 2.2-litre diesel putting out 199 horsepower.
However, while this might be a popular sector of the market, the Santa Fe isn't yet an obvious choice. It has plenty of competition, not least from this, the Skoda Kodiaq. First shown to us back in 2016, the Kodiaq has won a lot of praise, but is it still the one to go for? While it may not look as up-to-date as the big Hyundai, the Kodiaq still sets the bar for sheer practicality. Like the Santa Fe, it's available with 7 seats with plenty of room in all 3 rows. It has a big boot too, and all sorts of hidden cubbyholes and storage bins. Entry-level cars are cheaper than the Hyundai, but be prepared for a slightly dark and dingy cabin. All versions are exceptionally well built though, and there's a decent range of powertrain options. Another option is this, an old favourite in the 7-seat SUV class, the Nissan X-Trail. Where old models were rough and ready 4x4s, the latest version is a little softer, for buyers looking to carry more people than sheep. That said, it isn't quite as spacious as its rivals here, and it's older. It is good value though, with prices starting at just under £27,000. It still looks the part too, although the interior is starting to feel its age. It gets all the kit you'd expect, but it isn't quite as slick as the more modern Hyundai.
So while the Nissan offers great value and the Skoda is as practical as a car can be, the Hyundai still manages to impress us with its premium styling and smart interior. It's far from the cheapest option, but for now, it's our pick of the bunch.
There have been some great fast forwards in recent years. Over in North America, we've loved the latest Mustangs and the GT supercar, while here in Europe, we've been equally impressed with the wonderful Fiesta ST and now deceased Focus RS. But while plans for an RS version of the current Focus are now on hold, Ford has treated us with a more traditional hot hatch, the Focus ST. Rather than an all-wheel drive mega hatch like the RS, the ST has its sights set on toppling its front-wheel drive rivals, namely the Hyundai i30N and the Renault Megane RS. With so many great cars in this class then, the ST needs to continue the current fast Ford trend. To ensure the ST's performance credentials, Ford has packed it full of some very clever tech. It gets an anti-lag system which keeps the turbo spooled up for instant throttle response and acceleration. And it's certainly effective, helping the 276 brake horsepower 2.3-litre engine propel the car to 62 miles per hour in 5.7 seconds. Then there's the adaptive dampers and electronically controlled limited slip diff, helping to keep the Focus flat and neat through corners, while the rev matching system allows for racing driver downshifts with minimal effort. It even has launch control and a whole load of other performance goodies. There are two chunky exhaust tips poking out of the special rear bumper, while the lowered suspension and Pilot sport-clad alloys complete the hot hatch look. Elsewhere, the steering response has been sharpened, and the dampers have been firmed up, although the ride remains almost as supple as in the standard car, a great achievement considering how firm its rivals are. There's plenty of grip, allowing you to really make the most of quick steering and the brilliant differential. It hooks in and pulls you round, but be wary not to rely on it too much. If you head into a corner too fast, it will start to come undone, and you'll feel the torque steer dragging you away from an apex. The engine lacks the character of the playful chassis, but it's a big motor with plenty of grunt and a satisfying soundtrack too, with plenty of pops and bangs when you put the car into its most hardcore setting. Inside the cabin, it's business as usual, with a standard Focus dashboard lifted with some fantastic Recaro seats. There are endless creature comforts too, like a heated steering wheel, B&O sound system, and an 8-inch infotainment screen with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It even gets a shed-load of safety kit too, including autonomous emergency braking, evasive steering assist, and lane assist, making this a brilliantly usable everyday car.
But how does it compare to this, the cheaper Hyundai i30N? It may be the Korean brand's first foray into the world of performance cars, but boy have they done a good job here. Based on the practical but plain i30, the newly formed N division has transformed the humble hatchback into a class-leading hot hatch. Its interior is a little plain compared with the Ford's, but Hyundai has really gone to town on the exterior styling. It's far from being as in-your-face as the Civic Type R, but the sporty body kit and purposeful rear wing really mark this out as something a bit special. Get it out for a drive and it does not disappoint. Go for the optional performance pack and you get 271 brake horsepower, meaning 0 to 62 miles per hour in 6.1 seconds. Not quite as quick as the Ford Focus, but it's not quite as expensive. It sounds good too, and the chassis is every bit as responsive and intuitive as the ST's. It does feel a bit more serious though, where the Focus has clearly been engineered to be fun. The i30 feels altogether more grown up.
We like our hot hatches to be a giggle though, and the Ford Focus ST is just that. It's a car you can hustle along a country lane, enjoying the loud exhaust and brilliant handling, and then settle down for a comfortable motorway cruise. It nails the hot hatch criteria then. It does everything a normal Focus does, but it can still get your heart racing.
After the break, America's answer to the Range Rover and the new BMW 5 Series.
Coming up, the latest BMW 5 Series. But first,
in Europe and Asia, when we think of large SUVs, we think of Range Rovers, Q7s and Mitsubishi Shoguns. Across the pond in the States though, a large SUV is on another scale entirely. This is the new 2021 Cadillac Escalade, and it's bigger and bolder than ever. In fact, it's even bigger than the old one thanks to some extra length in the wheelbase. See this cruising slowly through town and it's immediately recognisable. The German manufacturers may be pioneering huge grills at the moment, but the Escalade takes it to a whole new level. It gets all the signature Cadillac design elements just scaled up, with long, narrow headlights and a huge badge. Naturally, for a car of this bulk, it gets a suitably massive engine, a 6.2-litre V8 with 420 horsepower to be precise, but interestingly, this isn't the only option. For the first time in the Escalade's history, it's available with a diesel motor. While this news is unlikely to strike much good cheer among environmentalists, it is at least a bit greener than the petrol-powered alternative, offering greater fuel economy and just as much torque. This being a Caddy though, it's more about luxury than power. So Cadillac has fitted the Escalade with its own enhanced suspension technology, including independent rear suspension, magnetic ride control, and air ride adaptive suspension. These features alter the car's height and damping rate of the shock absorbers to create a silky smooth ride. On the road, the Escalade features Super Cruise, which enables hands-free driving on more than 200,000 miles of compatible highways in the United States and Canada, the first of its kind in a large SUV. Some of the features of this tech include automated lane change, driver monitoring systems, and lane offset. But it's when you step inside the leather-lined cabin that the Escalade really starts to make sense. It's beautifully sculpted, mixing European elegance with classic American style. The biggest features are undoubtedly the stunning curved OLED displays, which are an industry first and have a higher pixel density than a 4K television. If 3 displays aren't enough, there are an additional 2 in the rear seats, which feature navigation, streaming and Android support to keep backseat drivers distracted. Besides the entertainment, other interior tech includes a rear camera mirror, night vision and augmented reality navigation. Cadillac has also partnered with audio specialist AKG for a bespoke sound system.
It's a true luxury car then, but it isn't without competition. This is the latest Lincoln Navigator, and it is gunning for the luxury SUV crown. The Lincoln shares much of its underpinnings with the Ford Expedition and wraps up the same V6 from the Ford in a much more luxurious package. The lavish Lincoln has been our favourite posh American 4x4 until recently, but can it compete against that fabulous Cadillac? Its cabin feels just as fancy as the Escalade, but somehow looks a little more modern, despite the Cadillac's fancy screens. Like its rival, it's full to the brim with leather and wood and a light, airy-feeling cabin. The new Escalade has the Lincoln beat on space and infotainment though. Its 3 front seat displays are much more advanced, while the extra length equates to a bit more room inside.
Neither of these cars, though, is really built for outright practicality. They're luxury cars first, load luggers second. But that sounds like a pretty great combination to us. While they may not offer the elegance of a Mercedes or class of a Range Rover, they provide a uniquely American take on the luxury SUV.
For decades now, the BMW 5 Series has been one of the most popular cars in the executive saloon market. Famed for its demure image and rear-wheel drive balance, the 5 Series is still a class favourite, both as a saloon and as an estate, but now it's had a refresh. Updated for 2021, the 5 Series has had a bit of a mid-life facelift. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the kidney grills have grown, while the headlights have become slimmer. Both the front and rear bumpers have been updated, and there are some new alloy wheel options to choose from if you go for the popular M Sport trim level. But it's under the bonnet where the changes are most prominent. The majority of 4 and 6 cylinder versions now come with a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which gives you an extra 11 brake horsepower to help you get off the line more quickly and help with overtaking. The 530e plug-in hybrid model is now available in touring form, and there's a new 6-cylinder PHEV called the 545e, which gets 387 brake horsepower and all-wheel drive. The top of the 5 Series tree is still the mighty 600 horsepower M5, but all versions now come with more standard kit across the board. However, is this mild refresh enough to keep it competitive against its rivals, namely the new Mercedes E-Class?
Like the BMW, the E-Class has received some nip and tuck surgery recently with a fresh face and new equipment. The changes are pretty similar to those of the 5 Series, with new bumpers, a new grille and some reshaped headlights, helping it to look as up-to-date as anything from the rest of the mind-boggling Mercedes range. The E-Class, though, has always been the brand's bread and butter. It's no niche-busting crossover or shooting brake, and as such, the designers haven't gone over the top. This new E-Class is as classy as it ever was, with a smart new steering wheel complementing the tech-filled cabin. There are 6 powertrains to choose from, ranging from a turbocharged 2-litre petrol mild hybrid up to a 3-litre V6 and several diesel options. As before, 2 AMG versions top the lineup, with the 423 brake horsepower E53 AMG and the full-fat E63S, which gets a fire-breathing 4-litre V8 producing 604 bhp. Perhaps the most intriguing car in the lineup, though, isn't a 200 mph AMG, but instead a 200 mpg diesel hybrid. The E300DE PHEV takes the 2-litre diesel engine available elsewhere in the lineup and teams it with an electric motor for a combined 302 bhp. It isn't as quick as the petrol hybrid version, but it is incredibly economical, with Mercedes claiming it's capable of up to 235 miles per gallon, while the electric-only range is limited to 34 miles. On the road, it's as refined as a petrol PHEV and doesn't feel lacking in performance at all, reaching 62 miles per hour from rest in just under 6 seconds.
However, we can't talk about the 5 Series and E-Class without mentioning this, the Audi A6. While its design has remained unchanged since its launch in 2018, it still looks just as smart and modern as its competitors from BMW and Mercedes, with its angular headlights and muscular stance. But it's inside the cabin where the A6 really shines. There are 3 main screens, 2 in the dash and 1 digital instrument cluster behind the steering wheel, each displaying crisp, bright graphics. They're intuitive and easy to use once you get used to them, and make the whole car seem very cutting edge. Like the BMW and Mercedes, it gets a wide range of engine options, as well as 2 performance versions, the diesel-powered S6 and the estate-only RS6. As a car to drive every day and soak up the miles though, we still love the BMW 5 Series. Even the lowliest models are well equipped and great to drive, while the performance versions are among the most dynamic saloon cars on the market. The competition is tighter than ever, but the BMW remains our go-to.
Join us again next week on AutoMundial as we look at an all-new saloon car from Kia, the K5.